The day my husband called me a dry tree in front of his entire family, something inside me didn't just break, it shattered into 1,000 pieces. But what broke me wasn't the words. It was the silence that followed, the nods, the agreement, the way his mother smiled. Have you ever been blamed for something that wasn't your fault? Have you ever carried shame that belonged to someone else? Stay with me, because this story will shake you to your core. Before we begin, if stories of resilience, truth, and justice move you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Share this with someone who needs to hear that their worth is not defined by other people's limitations. And please, drop a comment. Have you or someone you know ever been wrongly blamed? Let's talk about it. Now, let me tell you about Amara. Amara was the kind of woman people loved before they knew her story. She had a smile that could calm a storm and hands that never grew tired of giving. In the small community of Aguioba, where red dust roads wound between zinc-roofed houses and everyone knew everyone's business, Amara was known as the gentle one. The woman who brought soup to the sick. The wife who never raised her voice. The daughter-in-law who knelt to greet even the youngest relatives. But in Aguioba, a woman's gentleness meant nothing without children. And Amara had none. She had been married to Kola for 5 years. 5 long years that had slowly transformed from hopeful waiting to silent suffering. In the beginning, Kola had been different. He was the man who held her hand in public, who brought her roasted corn from the roadside, who whispered promises under the mango tree behind his father's compound. "We will fill this house with children," he used to say, his eyes bright with dreams. "Our sons will be strong, and our daughters will have your kind heart." Amara had believed him. She had believed in them. But belief is a fragile thing when it's constantly tested by empty arms and pitying stares. The first year passed with patience. "It will happen," Kola assured her, though his mother had already started asking questions at every family gathering. The second year brought worry. Kola's tone changed from reassurance to interrogation. "Are you doing something wrong? Are you taking something? Why is it taking so long?" By the third year, the word appeared. Barren. It started as a whisper behind her back. The church women would pause their conversations when she approached, their eyes filled with that particular mixture of pity and judgment that only women can perfect. At the market, older women would touch her shoulder and say, "Don't worry, my daughter. God's time is the best." But their eyes said something else entirely. "What is wrong with you?" Amara went to every prayer meeting. She fasted until her head pounded and her hands shook. She drank bitter herbs that burned her throat and turned her stomach. She endured the laying on of hands by 7 different prophets who all said the same thing. There is a blockage, a spiritual husband, a generational curse. None of them said, "Maybe it's not you." Kola's transformation was gradual, like watching a flower close at dusk, so slow you don't notice until the petals are completely shut. His kisses became mechanical. His conversations became complaints. His love became conditional, and the condition was one Amara couldn't meet. "My friends are bouncing their children on their laps," he would say, staring at the wall instead of her face. "And I come home to what? Silence, empty rooms, a wife who can't do the one thing a woman is supposed to do." The words cut deeper each time. But it was the public humiliation that truly broke her. It happened on a Sunday afternoon, after church service. The family had gathered at Kola's parents' house for the usual after-service meal. The yard was filled with aunties stirring pots of jollof rice, uncles arguing about politics under the shade of the breadfruit tree, and children, always children, running between the adults, their laughter piercing the air like tiny daggers to Amara's heart. Kola's mother, Mama Nkechi, sat in her wooden chair like a queen on a throne, her wrapper tied high around her chest, her headtie standing tall and proud. She was holding her newest grandchild, Kola's cousin's baby, cooing and bouncing the child on her knee. "This is what joy looks like," Mama Nkechi announced loudly, making sure everyone could hear. "A woman is not complete until she has given her husband children. Isn't that right, Kola?" Amara felt the air shift. Every conversation stopped. Every eye turned toward them. Kola was silent for a moment, and in that silence, Amara prayed. She prayed he would defend her. She prayed he would change the subject. She prayed he would remember the man he used to be. Instead, he laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "You're right, Mama," Kola said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I married a dry tree. What kind of fruit can it bear?" The words hung in the air like smoke from a funeral pyre. No one defended her. No one gasped in shock. No one told Kola he was wrong. His mother nodded in agreement. His father grunted and went back to his beer. His sisters exchanged knowing glances. His cousins looked away, embarrassed for her but not enough to speak up. And Amara just sat there, her hands folded in her lap, her face a mask of calm while her soul screamed. She didn't cry, not then, not in front of them. She served the rice with steady hands. She cleared the plates with a smile. She laughed at the appropriate moments and answered questions with grace. She played the role she had been taught to play, the good wife, the patient wife, the wife who endures. But that night, alone in the bedroom she shared with Kola, while he snored beside her without a care in the world, Amara finally let the tears fall. They came in waves, silent, violent waves that shook her entire body. She pressed her face into the pillow to muffle the sounds, her chest heaving with grief for the love she had lost, the respect she never had, and the children she was blamed for not having. In the darkness, she heard Kola's words again. "I married a dry tree." And something inside her shifted. For 5 years, she had accepted the blame. She had carried the shame. She had believed that maybe, somehow, it was her fault. That maybe she wasn't praying hard enough, fasting long enough, believing strong enough. But in that moment, with tears streaming down her face and her husband sleeping peacefully beside her, sleeping peacefully after humiliating her in front of his entire family, Amara made a decision. She would find the truth. Whatever it took, whatever it cost, she would no longer accept being called Barren without proof. She reached under the bed and pulled out a small notebook, a journal she had started keeping months ago, filled with dates, symptoms, test results, and questions no one wanted to answer. On a fresh page, she wrote 5 words in shaking handwriting. "It's time to know for sure." But what Amara didn't know was that the truth she was searching for would destroy everything she thought she knew about her marriage, and the man she called her husband. Will Amara find the courage to uncover what everyone is hiding? What happens when the woman they called Barren refuses to stay silent? The morning after the family gathering, Amara woke up to find Kola already gone. No goodbye, no explanation, just an empty space beside her and the lingering smell of his aftershave. On the kitchen table, she found a note in his mother's handwriting. "We need to talk. Come to the house at noon. Don't be late." Amara's hands trembled as she held the paper. She knew what "we need to talk" meant in Mama Nkechai's language. It meant judgment. It meant intervention. It meant another round of blame dressed up as concern. She was right. When she arrived at her mother-in-law's house at noon, she found not just Mama Nkechai waiting, but a full council. Kola's 2 sisters, 3 aunties, and a woman Amara had never seen before. A woman with sharp eyes and a leather bag filled with bottles and mysterious wrapped bundles. "Sit down, Amara," Mama Nkechai commanded, not asked. Amara sat, her back straight, her face neutral. She had learned long ago that showing emotion in front of these women was like showing blood to sharks. "This is Mama Adaku," Mama Nkechai continued, gesturing to the strange woman. "She is a renowned herbalist. She has helped many women like you, women who were incomplete." The word hung in the air like a slap. Incomplete. As if Amara was a half-finished product, a defective item, something less than human. "Mama Nkechai, I appreciate your concern," Amara began carefully, "but I've already been to several. And none of them worked." One of the aunties interrupted, her voice sharp with accusation. "Which means you're not trying hard enough, or maybe," she leaned forward, lowering her voice to a dramatic whisper, "maybe you're hiding something." "Hiding something," Amara repeated, her voice steady despite the rage building in her chest. "Some women," another auntie chimed in. They did things in their youth, abortions, promiscuity, and now they pay the price. The accusation was clear, and it was monstrous. Amara had been a virgin when she married Kola. She had never even kissed another man. But in this room, her truth didn't matter. Only their narrative did. Mama Adaku opened her leather bag and began pulling out bottles of dark liquid, twisted roots, and powders that smelled like decay and desperation. "You will drink this every morning," she instructed, her voice raspy and authoritative. "You will bathe with this one under the full moon. And this," she held up a particularly foul-smelling concoction, "you will apply internally before you sleep with your husband." Amara looked at the bottles, then at the faces around her. Faces filled with certainty, with righteousness, with the absolute conviction that she was the problem that needed fixing. "And if I refuse?" Amara asked quietly. The room went silent. Mama Enkechai's eyes narrowed. "Then you admit you don't want to be healed. You admit you enjoy shamming this family. You admit you don't care about your husband's happiness." It was a trap, perfectly constructed. Say yes and endure more humiliation. Say no and prove you're the selfish, barren woman they already believed you to be. Amara took the bottles. For the next 3 months, Amara's life became a cycle of degradation. She drank the bitter herbs that made her vomit. She bathed in the moonlight while neighbors peeked through their windows, whispering. She endured prayer sessions where pastors screamed at her womb, commanding demons to leave, while she knelt on hard concrete until her knees bled. Kola watched it all with the detachment of a man observing a science experiment. Sometimes he would ask, "Is it working yet?" As if she was a broken appliance he was waiting to be repaired. But the worst came when Mama Enkech announced her solution. "Kola needs to marry another wife," she declared one evening during a family dinner, as casually as if she was discussing the weather. "A young one, fertile, someone who can give him what you cannot." Amara's fork clattered against her plate. Kola said nothing. He just kept eating, his silence a confirmation louder than any words. "It's not personal, Amara," one of the sisters added, her tone dripping with false sympathy. "You'll still be the first wife, you'll have respect, but our brother needs children. He needs sons to carry his name. And I can stay here and watch him build a family with another woman." Amara's voice was calm, but there was steel beneath it. "Watch her give him what you all claim I cannot." "You should be grateful," Mama Enkechai snapped. "Another woman would have been thrown out by now, divorced, sent back to her family in shame, but we are giving you the dignity of staying, of remaining Mrs. Kola Akhafer. You should be on your knees thanking us." Amara looked around the table. At Kola, who still wouldn't meet her eyes. At his mother, who wore righteousness like armor. At his sisters and aunties, who nodded in agreement like a chorus of condemnation. And she realized something profound. This was never about finding a solution. This was about control, about power, about making sure she knew her place. That night, Amara made a call she had been avoiding for months. She called Dr. Chinwe, the gynecologist who had examined her a year ago and found nothing wrong. "Doctor," Amara said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I need to see you, privately, and I need you to tell me the complete truth, no matter how difficult it is." The appointment was on a Wednesday afternoon. Amara told Kola she was going to the market. She told Mama Enkechai she had a church meeting. She told everyone a lie because the truth, that she was finally seeking real medical answers, would have been met with mockery and resistance. Dr. Chinwe was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and an air of professional competence that Amara found immediately comforting. "Amara," she said, pulling out a thick file, "I'm glad you came. I've reviewed all your test results from last year. Your hormones are normal. Your uterus is healthy. Your fallopian tubes are clear. Medically speaking, there is absolutely nothing preventing you from conceiving." The words should have brought relief. Instead, they brought a new kind of pain. "Then why?" Amara whispered. "Why can't I get pregnant?" Dr. Chinwe leaned forward, her expression serious. "Amara, fertility is not a solo endeavor. It takes 2 people. Have you ever considered that the issue might not be with you? The question hung in the air like a revelation. My husband refuses to be tested, Amara admitted. He says it's unnecessary, that real men don't need tests, that it's always the woman's fault. Dr. Chinwa's jaw tightened. That's not science, that's ego, and ego doesn't produce children. She pulled out a pamphlet and slid it across the desk. Male infertility accounts for at least 40% of all infertility cases, sometimes more. But in our culture, men rarely get tested because of pride, shame, and the convenient belief that women are always the problem. Amara stared at the pamphlet, her mind racing. How do I get him to agree to testing? You need leverage, Dr. Chinwe said carefully. Family pressure, elder intervention, something that makes it impossible for him to refuse without looking suspicious. Amara thought of Mama Enkachai, of the aunties, of the community that had already decided she was barren. They won't believe me. They'll say I'm making excuses. Then don't tell them it's your idea, Dr. Chinwe suggested. Go to the elders in your church or community, older men he respects. Let them suggest it as part of a comprehensive solution. Men like Kola respond to other men, not their wives. It was manipulative, it was strategic, and it was the only option Amara had left. 2 weeks later, during a family meeting convened by the church elders to discuss the barrenness situation, Amara sat quietly while the men talked. Elder Okonkwo, a respected retired teacher, cleared his throat. Kola, my son, we have prayed, we have fasted. Your wife has been to every herbalist and prophet in this town, but we must also embrace wisdom. Modern medicine is a gift from God. Both of you should undergo complete medical testing, together. Kola bristled. I don't need testing. I am a man. I am fine. And how do you know? Elder Okonkwo challenged gently. Did God send you a personal message, or are you relying on assumption? The other elders murmured in agreement. It is wise, another elder added, to rule out all possibilities before taking drastic steps like marrying a second wife. What if you marry another woman and the same problem occurs? Then what? A third wife? A fourth? The logic was irrefutable, and Kola knew it. To refuse now would make him look foolish, suspicious, or both. Fine, he finally agreed, his jaw tight with resentment. We'll both get tested, to prove that I'm right. Amara kept her face neutral, but inside, her heart was pounding. The truth was coming, and she had a feeling it would change everything. The test was scheduled for the following Monday, but Kola didn't know that Amara had already made a second appointment at a different facility, just to be sure. She had learned not to trust anyone with something this important. Monday came. They went to the clinic together, underwent their respective tests in cold, clinical rooms, and were told to return in 1 week for results. That week was the longest of Amara's life. Kola was cocky, confident, already planning his vindication speech. When the results prove I'm fine, he told her one evening, you'll apologize to me, to my mother, to everyone. You'll admit you're the problem. Amara said nothing. She just waited. The results came back on a Friday. Amara received a call from the clinic first, asking her to come in alone. Her heart raced as she sat in Dr. Chinwa's office, watching the doctor's face carefully. Your results are perfect, Dr. Chinwe said with a sad smile. You are completely capable of conceiving, but Amara, she paused, choosing her words carefully, your husband's results show severe oligospermia. His sperm count is extremely low, almost negligible. The likelihood of him fathering a child naturally is very, very slim. The room spun. Amara gripped the arms of her chair. Are you sure? Absolutely certain. We ran the test twice. I'm sorry, Amara. The issue has never been you. Amara sat in stunned silence. 5 years. 5 years of blame. 5 years of shame. 5 years of being called barren, broken, cursed, incomplete. And it was never her. Does he know? Amara whispered. The clinic will inform him separately, Dr. Chinwe said. But Amara, I need to warn you, some men, when faced with this truth, become defensive. Angry, even violent. Be careful. Amara nodded numbly. She thanked the doctor and walked out of the clinic in a daze. As she stepped into the sunlight, her phone rang. It was Kola. "Where are you?" His voice was sharp, hostile. "Coming home," she answered carefully. "We need to talk about the results." He hung up before she could respond. Amara took a deep breath and began the walk home, her mind racing with possibilities. Would he admit the truth? Would he apologize? Would he finally see her as something other than the problem? Deep down, she already knew the answer. Men like Kola didn't apologize. They attacked. When Amara arrived home, she found Kola waiting, but he wasn't alone. And the envelope in his hand wasn't the real test results. The moment Amara stepped through the door, she knew something was wrong. Kola stood in the center of their small living room, his chest puffed out with the confidence of a man who believed he had won. In his hand was a brown envelope, official-looking, sealed with the clinic's stamp. Beside him stood Mama Enkachai, his 2 sisters, and 3 of the aunties. They all wore the same expression, vindication mixed with barely concealed glee. "Well, well," Mama Enkachai said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. "The results are here, and it's time for you to face the truth, Amara." Amara's stomach dropped. She looked at Kola, whose eyes held something she couldn't quite identify. Was it triumph? Or was it something darker, something desperate? "Kola," Amara said carefully, "what is this?" He tore open the envelope with dramatic flair and pulled out a sheet of paper. "This," he announced loudly, "is proof that I am perfectly fine. My sperm count is excellent. My fertility is excellent. Everything about me is excellent." He thrust the paper toward her. Amara took it with shaking hands and scanned the document. Her eyes widened. It was a lab report. It had Kola's name. It had the clinic's letterhead. And it showed completely normal results, results that directly contradicted what Dr. Chinwe had told her just an hour ago. "You see," one of the sisters crowed, "we told you, it's been you all along." "All these years," an auntie added, "wasting our time, our money, our prayers, when you knew you were the problem." Mama Enkachai crossed her arms, her expression hard. "I want you out of this house by the end of the week. My son deserves a real woman, a fertile woman, not a—" She waved her hand dismissively, "whatever you are." The room was spinning. Amara looked down at the paper again, her mind trying to make sense of what she was seeing. The letterhead was right, Kola's name was right, but the numbers. And then she saw it. The date. The report was dated today, Friday, but their test had been on Monday. Results were supposed to take a week, which meant they should have been ready next Monday, not today. This report had been processed in 4 days. Unusually fast. And there was something else, a small detail that most people wouldn't notice. The signature at the bottom, it was slightly smudged as if it had been photocopied or altered. "Where did you get this?" Amara asked quietly. "From the clinic, obviously," Kola snapped. "Where else would I get test results?" "Which clinic?" "The same one we went to." But his eyes shifted slightly, a tell that Amara had learned to recognize over 5 years of marriage. He was lying. "Show me the envelope it came in," Amara demanded. "What?" "The envelope, the original envelope from the clinic. They seal them. They have security features. Show me." Kola's face flushed red. "I don't need to show you anything. This is the result, and that's final." "You don't have the envelope, do you?" Amara's voice was growing stronger now, steadier. "Because this didn't come from the clinic we went to. This came from somewhere else." "How dare you?" Mama Enkachai exploded. "You stand there and call my son a liar. You, who have been lying to this family for 5 years about your barrenness." But Amara wasn't listening to Mama Enkachai anymore. She was watching Kola, really watching him, and what she saw was fear. "I'm going to call the clinic right now," Amara said, pulling out her phone. "I'm going to ask them if they released your results today, and I'm going to ask them what those results actually say." "Don't you dare," Kola growled, stepping toward her. "Or what?" For the first time in 5 years, Amara didn't back down. "What will you do, Kola?" Hit me in front of your family. Stop me from learning the truth. The room went silent. Amara dialed the number. The phone rang twice before a receptionist answered. Good afternoon, this is Amara Akafer. My husband and I had fertility tests done on Monday. I'm calling to confirm. Were his results released today? There was a pause, the sound of typing. No, Ma, the receptionist said. According to our records, your husband's results won't be ready until Monday, as originally scheduled. We never release results early unless... Thank you, Amara interrupted, her eyes locked on Cola's face. That's all I needed to know. She hung up. The silence in the room was deafening. So, Amara said, her voice cold and clear, where did this report really come from, Cola? His face had gone from red to pale. I can explain. Explain what? That you lied. That you faked a medical report. That you bribed someone to create false results so you could continue blaming me for something that was never my fault. This is nonsense, Mama Enkechi shouted, but her voice lacked its earlier conviction. Even she could see the cracks forming in her son's facade. One of the aunties stepped forward, peering at the report more closely. Cola, is this true? Did you fake this? No, I wanted to. Cola was stammering now, his confidence crumbling. I couldn't let everyone think I was the problem. And there it was. The confession, hidden in a justification. You couldn't let everyone think you were the problem, Amara repeated slowly. So you let everyone think I was. You let me be humiliated, insulted, degraded for 5 years because of your pride. It's not pride, Cola shouted. It's complicated. You don't understand what it's like for a man, the pressure, the expectations. And you think I don't know about pressure? Amara's voice was rising now, years of suppressed anger finally breaking free. You think I haven't felt expectations? You called me a dry tree, Cola, in front of your entire family. You let them perform rituals on me. You let them blame me for things I didn't do. You were ready to marry another woman and parade her in front of me, all while knowing the truth. I didn't know, Cola protested weakly. Not for sure, not until. Until when? Amara demanded. Until the test we did on Monday, or until earlier. How long have you suspected, Cola? How long have you known that you were the one who couldn't have children? The question hung in the air, like an accusation. And then, from the doorway, a new voice spoke. He's known for 3 years. Everyone turned. Standing in the entrance was a young woman Amara had never seen before. She was maybe 25, dressed in jeans and a simple blouse, with eyes red from crying. Who are you? Mama Enkechi demanded. The woman took a shaky breath. My name is Ego, and I was almost Cola's second wife. The room exploded in shocked whispers. Cola's face went white. Ego, what are you doing here? I told you. You told me to keep quiet, Ego interrupted, her voice trembling but determined. You told me that if I kept my mouth shut, you'd give me money, you'd take care of me, but I can't do it anymore. I can't let another woman suffer the way you've made me suffer. She walked into the room, standing beside Amara in an unexpected show of solidarity. 3 years ago, Ego began, Cola came to my family. He said he wanted to marry me as a second wife because his first wife was Barren. My parents agreed because they believed him. We started courting. But before the marriage could happen, I started asking questions. I insisted we do medical tests, both of us. My father is a doctor, and he wouldn't let me marry without knowing everything. She pulled out her own envelope from her bag, this one clearly original, with unbroken seals and official stamps. Cola did the test, and the results showed severe oligospermia. His sperm count was so low that the doctor said natural conception was nearly impossible. Mama Enkechi grabbed the envelope, tearing it open with shaking hands. She read the report, her face transforming from anger to shock to horror. No, she whispered. No, this can't be. It's true, Ego said. When I showed Cola the results, he begged me to keep it secret. He said his family would disown him. He said his wife didn't need to know because it would destroy his life. He offered my family money to stay quiet and call off the engagement quietly. She turned to look at Amara, tears streaming down her face. But I couldn't do it. Not when I heard he was trying to marry another woman. Not when I heard how he was treating you. I've been trying to get the courage to tell you for months. And then today, I heard he was presenting fake results. Amara's legs felt weak. She sat down heavily on the couch, the weight of 5 years crashing down on her all at once. It was true, all of it. Kola hadn't just failed to get tested. He had been tested. He had known for 3 years that he was infertile, and he had spent those 3 years, 3 entire years, letting Amara believe she was the problem. Mama Enkechi was still clutching the real test results, her hands shaking. Kola, my son, is this true? Kola said nothing. His silence was answer enough. One of the sisters started crying. How could you? How could you do this to her, to us? I did it for you, Kola suddenly exploded. His carefully maintained composure finally shattering. All of you, always pushing me, always demanding grandchildren, nephews, sons. When will you give us children, Kola? What kind of man are you, Kola? Your cousins already have 3 children, Kola. What was I supposed to say? That I'm the one who's broken, that I'm not man enough. He turned to his mother, his eyes wild. You would have disowned me, Mama. You would have looked at me the same way you looked at Uncle Emeka when everyone found out he couldn't have children, with pity and disgust. So yes, I let Amara take the blame. I let her suffer, because it was easier than facing the truth. The confession was ugly, raw, and devastating. Mama Enkechi dropped the envelope, her face crumpling. For the first time since Amara had known her, the formidable woman looked small, broken. I called her Barren, she whispered. I called her cursed, I took her too. She couldn't finish the sentence. Amara sat in silence, watching the family implode around the truth. Part of her wanted to feel vindicated. Part of her wanted to scream at all of them. But mostly, she just felt tired. So tired. I have one question, Amara finally said, her voice cutting through the chaos. Everyone turned to look at her. She stared directly at Kola. When you called me a dry tree, when you let your family humiliate me, when you were planning to marry Ego, did you feel anything, any guilt, any shame, any love for me at all? Kola opened his mouth, then closed it. For once, he had no words. And in his silence, Amara found her answer. She stood up, straightened her dress, and picked up her purse. Where are you going? Mama Enkechi asked weakly. Away, Amara said simply. From this house, from this family, from this marriage. Amara, wait, Kola started. But Amara held up her hand, stopping him. You wanted the truth to stay hidden because you thought it would destroy you. But Kola, the truth didn't destroy you. You destroyed yourself, and you destroyed me in the process. She walked to the door, where Ego still stood. Thank you, Amara said to the younger woman, for being braver than all of them combined. Then she walked out. Behind her, she heard Mama Enkechi's wailing, the sister's accusations, Kola's desperate attempts to explain himself. But for the first time in 5 years, Amara didn't care. She had carried their shame long enough. Now it was time for them to carry their own. Amara walked down the dusty road away from the house, her phone buzzing in her purse. It was Dr. Chinwe, but the message on her screen made Amara stop in her tracks. Urgent, need to see you immediately. There's something else in your results, something unexpected. Come to the clinic now. Before we continue, I need to know, are you feeling this story? Has someone you know ever been blamed for something that wasn't their fault? Drop a comment and share your thoughts. Hit that subscribe button because what happened next will blow your mind. Justice is coming, and it's sweeter than you can imagine. Share this with someone who needs to hear that the truth always wins. Always. Now, let's see what Dr. Chinwe discovered. Amara's hands trembled as she read the text message again. Something unexpected. What could be more unexpected than discovering her husband had been lying for 3 years? She changed direction, heading toward the clinic instead of. Well, she didn't even know where she had been walking to. Away, just away, but now she had a destination. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the dusty streets of Uguioba. Women were returning from the market, Children played football in empty lots, and life continued its normal rhythm, completely unaware that Amara's world had just been shattered and was now, apparently, about to shift again. When she arrived at the clinic, the receptionist ushered her directly to Dr. Chinwe's office. The doctor's face was a mixture of professional composure and barely contained excitement. "Amara, sit down," Dr. Chinwe said gently. "What's wrong?" Amara asked, her heart racing. "Is there something wrong with my results? Am I sick?" No, nothing like that." Dr. Chinwe pulled out a folder. "Amara, when we ran your fertility tests, we ran a comprehensive panel, standard procedure, and we found something we weren't looking for." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Amara, you're pregnant." The world stopped. Amara stared at the doctor, certain she had misheard. "I'm what?" "Pregnant, about 6 weeks along. The hormone levels are clear, unmistakable." "But that's impossible," Amara whispered. "You just told me Kola can't. He has almost no sperm count," Dr. Chinwe finished. "Not zero. Almost negligible means difficult, not impossible. Against incredible odds, it happened." Amara's mind was reeling. 6 weeks ago, that would have been, she counted back, right after one of the worst fights she and Kola had ever had. The night he had come home drunk and demanding, and she had submitted just to avoid another argument. A child conceived in bitterness and pain. "Are you sure?" Amara asked, her voice barely audible. Dr. Chinwe turned her computer monitor toward Amara, showing the test results. The numbers were there, clear and undeniable. "I'm sure," the doctor said. "The question is, what are you going to do?" Amara sat in stunned silence. 20 minutes ago, she had walked out of her marriage. She had finally freed herself from 5 years of blame, humiliation, and lies. She had reclaimed her dignity, her truth, her life. And now this. "Does anyone else know?" Amara asked. "Just you and me. The results came in after I called you earlier. I wanted you to hear it from me directly." Amara's mind raced through the implications. If she told Kola, he would claim victory. He would say it proved he was fine all along, that the doctors were wrong, that Amara had been exaggerating. His family would use it as evidence that the herbalist's potions had worked, or that God had finally answered their prayers after they corrected Amara. They would twist this miracle into vindication for 5 years of abuse. "I'm not going back," Amara said suddenly, the clarity of her decision surprising even herself. "I'm not going back to that house, to that marriage, to those people." "Even with a child?" Dr. Chinwe asked gently, without judgment. "Especially with a child," Amara said, her voice growing stronger. "My baby will not grow up watching its mother be degraded, will not learn that love looks like humiliation, will not think that it's normal for a father to call his wife Barren while knowing the truth." Dr. Chinwe nodded slowly. "Where will you go?" "I have a cousin in Lagos," Amara said, the plan forming even as she spoke. "She's been asking me to visit for years. I'll go there, start over, raise my child away from all of this. And Kola, his family, they'll look for you." "Let them look," Amara said. "I've spent 5 years trying to prove my worth to people who were determined not to see it. I'm done." She stood up, placing her hand instinctively on her still flat stomach. Inside her was a tiny life, a life that had defied medical odds, that had come into existence despite everything stacked against it. A fighter, just like its mother. "Thank you, Dr. Chinwe," Amara said, "for everything, for telling me the truth when no one else would, for believing me." The doctor stood and embraced her. "You're going to be fine, Amara. You're stronger than you know." 3 days later, news began to spread through Aguioba like wildfire. Kola's infertility was no longer a secret. Ego had told her family had told their neighbors had told everyone else. In a community where gossip traveled faster than light, the truth about Kola Akafor became common knowledge within 48 hours. The same women who had whispered about Amara's barrenness now whispered about Kola's deception. The same church members who had prayed over Amara's womb now discussed Kola's pride. The same family members who had pressured him to take a second wife now faced the humiliation of public exposure. And Mama Nkechi, the formidable matriarch who had orchestrated so much of Amara's suffering, became a shell of her former self. She stopped attending church, stopped hosting family gatherings, stopped holding her head high in the marketplace. Her son's shame had become her own. But Kola himself was a different story. At first, he tried to control the narrative. He told people the tests were wrong, that doctors made mistakes, that Western medicine couldn't be trusted. He even claimed that Amara had somehow manipulated the results to make him look bad. But when Ego produced her 3-year-old test results that matched the recent ones exactly, his excuses crumbled. Then he tried anger. He went to Amara's family home, demanding to see her. But Amara had already left Ugwuoba the day after her appointment with Dr. Chinwe. Her father, who had remained mostly silent during the 5 years of marriage, finally found his voice. "My daughter is gone," he told Kola at the door, "and you are not welcome here." "She's my wife," Kola shouted. "She belongs to me." "No," Amara's father said quietly, but with steel in his voice. "She belongs to herself. She always did. We just forgot to remind her." He closed the door in Kola's face. Finally, Kola tried remorse. He showed up at Elder Okonkwo's house, the same elder who had convinced him to take the fertility tests. He fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "I've destroyed everything," he sobbed. "My marriage, my reputation, my family's honor. I need help. I need to make this right." Elder Okonkwo looked at the broken man before him with a mixture of pity and disappointment. "Kola," he said slowly, "what you need is not to make things right with Amara. She is beyond your reach now, and frankly, she deserves to be. What you need is to make things right with yourself, to understand why you chose pride over truth, why you chose your ego over your wife's dignity." "I was afraid," Kola whispered, "afraid of being less than a man." "And so you made your wife less than a woman?" Elder Okonkwo shook his head. "Fear is human, Kola, but cruelty is a choice. Every time you called her barren, every time you humiliated her in public, every time you let your family degrade her, those were choices. And now you must live with the consequences." "What do I do?" Kola asked desperately. "You start by telling the truth, all of it, to everyone who will listen. You stand in front of the church, in front of the community, and you admit what you did. Not to get Amara back, that ship has sailed. But to stop other men from making the same mistakes. To stop other women from suffering the way you made your wife suffer." Kola looked horrified. "You want me to publicly humiliate myself?" Elder Okonkwo's expression hardened. "You publicly humiliated Amara for 5 years. I think you can handle one honest confession." The following Sunday, Kola stood before the congregation. The church was packed, not with worshippers, but with gossips eager to witness the fall of the proud man. People who had once respected him now looked at him with contempt, curiosity, or schadenfreude. Pastor Okoro had initially resisted the idea of letting Kola speak, but Elder Okonkwo had insisted. "Let him face what he's done," the elder had argued. "Let others learn from his mistakes." Kola stood at the pulpit, his hands shaking, his voice barely audible. "My name is Kola Okafor," he began, "and I'm the reason my marriage failed." The church went silent. "For 3 years, I knew I was infertile. I knew that the problem was mine, not my wife's. But I was afraid of shame, afraid of judgment, afraid of being seen as less than a man. So I let my wife take the blame. I called her barren. I allowed my family to humiliate her. I permitted rituals and prayers and accusations that I knew were based on a lie." His voice cracked. "I destroyed a good woman's spirit because I was too cowardly to face the truth about myself." Some people in the congregation nodded. Others looked away, uncomfortable with such raw honesty. "I don't expect forgiveness," Kola continued. "I don't deserve it, but I want every man in this room to hear me. Pride is not strength. Silence is not protection. And if you are struggling with infertility or anything else that makes you feel inadequate, tell the truth. Don't let your ego destroy someone you claim to love." He stepped down from the pulpit and walked out of the church, his confession complete. Behind him, the congregation erupted in whispers, debates, and uncomfortable self-reflection. But the most significant witness to Cola's confession wasn't in the church. She was 250 kilometers away in Lagos, sitting in her cousin's bright, airy apartment, watching the video someone had posted online. Amara watched her husband's confession on her phone, her hand resting on her growing belly. She was 12 weeks pregnant now, just beginning to show. Her cousin, Nkechi, a successful lawyer who had never married and constantly faced her own family's judgment, sat beside her. "How do you feel?" Nkechi asked gently. Amara was quiet for a long moment. "I feel nothing," she finally said. "Not anger, not satisfaction, not even pity, just nothing." "That's progress," Nkechi said. "Is it?" "Amara, 3 months ago, that man controlled your emotions. Your happiness depended on his approval. Your worth was measured by his words. Now you watch him confess his sins and you feel nothing. That's not numbness. That's freedom." Amara looked down at her stomach, feeling the tiny flutter of life inside her, life that had come against all odds in the darkest moment of her marriage. "I'm going to tell him," she said suddenly, "about the baby." Nkechi looked surprised. "Why? You don't owe him anything." "I know, but this child deserves to know its father, even if its father is flawed. And Kola deserves to know that the miracle he prayed for actually happened, just not in time to save what he destroyed." "You're a better person than I am," Nkechi said. "No," Amara said. "I'm just free, and free people don't need revenge, they just need truth." The letter arrived at Kola's house 2 weeks later. It was handwritten on simple paper, with no return address, but Kola recognized Amara's handwriting immediately. "Kola, I'm writing to tell you something you deserve to know, even though you don't deserve anything from me. I'm pregnant, 6 weeks along when I left, 4 months now. The doctors say it's a miracle. They say with your sperm count, the chances were almost impossible. But apparently, almost impossible is not the same as impossible. This child is yours biologically, but it will not know your cruelty. It will not watch you humiliate its mother. It will not learn that love looks like what we had. I'm not telling you this to punish you or to ask anything from you. I'm telling you because you deserve to know that the blessing you prayed for came. It just came too late to save what you destroyed with your own hands. I don't hate you, Kola. I don't even think about you most days. I'm building a new life, and it's a good one. If you want to be part of this child's life someday, you'll have to earn it. Not with money or apologies, but with genuine change. With becoming the kind of man who tells the truth even when it's hard. Who protects instead of destroys. Who loves without conditions. Until then, we're fine without you. Amara." Kola read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down his face. He had everything he said he wanted, proof that he could father a child, vindication of his manhood, but he had lost everything that actually mattered. His mother found him sitting in the dark, clutching the letter. "What is it?" she asked. "She's pregnant," Kola whispered. "Amara is pregnant." Mama Nkechi's eyes widened. "Then bring her back, bring her home, we can fix this, we can." "No, Mama," Kola interrupted quietly. "We can't fix this, I can't fix this. I broke something that can't be repaired." For the first time, he truly understood what he had lost. Not just a wife, not just a child, but a woman who had loved him unconditionally until he taught her that his love came with conditions. 6 months later, Amara was about to give birth, but she wasn't alone, and the community that had once shamed her was about to learn their final lesson. The baby came on a rainy Tuesday morning in Lagos. Amara's labor started at dawn, gentle contractions that gradually built into waves of intensity. Nkechi drove her to the hospital, holding her hand through every contraction, every breath, every moment of pain and anticipation. By noon, Amara held her daughter in her arms. She was perfect. Tiny fingers, soft skin, a head full of dark hair, and lungs that announced her arrival with a powerful cry that made the nurses laugh. What will you name her? Enkeche asked, tears streaming down her face as she looked at her cousin's child. Amara looked down at the baby, this impossible miracle, this life that had survived despite everything. Despite medical odds, despite a broken marriage, despite 5 years of being told she was barren. Chiamaka, Amara said softly, God is beautiful. Because despite all the ugliness she had endured, this tiny person in her arms, was proof that beauty could come from ashes. The news reached Aguioba within hours. Amara's father called Kola, as he had promised his daughter he would. The conversation was brief, factual, and cold. Your daughter was born today. Mother and child are healthy. A daughter, Kola whispered. Can I see them? That's not my decision to make, Amara's father said. My daughter will decide if and when you've earned that right. He hung up. Kola stood in his empty house, the same house where he had called Amara a dry tree, where he had allowed his family to humiliate her, where he had destroyed the best thing in his life. Mama Enkeche appeared in the doorway. She had aged 10 years in the past 6 months. The once formidable woman now moved slowly, spoke quietly, and carried the weight of her own guilt. A granddaughter, she said softly, a granddaughter I may never meet. We did this, Kola said, looking at his mother. We both did this. Mama Enkeche nodded, tears filling her eyes. I thought I was protecting you, I thought I was helping, but I was just cruel, so cruel to that girl. She wasn't a girl, Kola said. She was my wife, and I should have protected her from you, from everyone, from myself. They stood in silence, 2 people finally facing the consequences of pride, tradition, and cruelty. 3 months after Chiamaka's birth, something unexpected happened. Amara received an invitation. The women of Aguioba, the same women who had whispered about her barrenness, who had suggested herbs and prayers, who had looked at her with pity and judgment, had organized a meeting, and they wanted Amara to speak. The invitation came from an unlikely source, one of Kola's aunties, the same woman who had accused Amara of hiding abortions. The letter was handwritten, humble and honest. Dear Amara, we know we have no right to ask anything of you. We know we failed you in every possible way, but we are asking anyway. Since you left, 12 women in our community have come forward with similar stories. Women whose husbands blamed them for infertility without getting tested. Women who endured rituals and shame for problems that weren't theirs. Your courage in walking away has inspired them to demand better, to ask questions, to refuse blame. We want to do better, to be better, and we want to learn from our mistakes. Would you come and speak to us? Not to forgive us, we don't deserve forgiveness yet, but to teach us, to help us break the cycle of blame that has destroyed too many women. We understand if you refuse, but we had to ask. The women of Aguioba. Amara read the letter 3 times. Enkeche watched her cousin's face carefully. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, Amara paused, choosing her words carefully. I'm thinking that silence protects abusers and speaking protects victims. So you'll go. Yes, Amara said, looking down at Chiamaka sleeping peacefully in her crib. For her, so she grows up in a world that's a little bit better than the one I lived in. The meeting was held in the church hall on a Saturday afternoon. When Amara arrived, carrying Chiamaka in her arms, the room fell silent. Over 100 women had gathered, young wives, mothers, grandmothers, even teenage girls whose futures were being shaped by the stories they heard. At the front of the room sat Mama Enkeche. Their eyes met across the crowded hall. The older woman's face crumpled with emotion, but she didn't look away. She held Amara's gaze, accepting the weight of what she had done. Amara walked to the front of the room. She didn't have notes. She didn't have a prepared speech. She just had her truth. 5 years ago, she began, I believed that my worth as a woman depended on my ability to have children. I believed that if I couldn't give my husband a son, I had failed. I believed that the shame I carried was mine to bear. The room was utterly silent. I was wrong, Amara continued, her voice growing stronger. My worth was never tied to my womb. My value was never determined by my fertility. And the shame I carried was never mine. It belonged to the people who placed it on me without evidence, without compassion, and without truth. She shifted Chiamaka in her arms, the baby's small hand gripping her finger. This is my daughter, Chiamaka. She was conceived during the darkest time of my marriage. Medical science said it was almost impossible, but she exists. She is the miracle everyone prayed for. Amara looked around the room, making eye contact with the women who had whispered about her, judged her, participated in her humiliation. But here's the truth that no one wants to say out loud. I would rather have remained childless forever than raise a daughter in a home where her mother was degraded, where her father valued pride over truth, where love was conditional and cruelty was normal. Some women in the audience started crying. Infertility is not a curse, Amara said. It's a medical condition. It affects men and women equally. But in our culture, only women are blamed. Only women undergo humiliating rituals. Only women are called barren, cursed, incomplete. She paused, letting her words sink in. My husband knew for 3 years that he was infertile. 3 years. And in those 3 years, he let me suffer. He let you all participate in my suffering. Why? Because his pride was more important than my dignity. Mama Nkechi stood up, her voice shaking. Amara, Let me finish, Amara said firmly but not unkindly. Mama Nkechi sat down. I don't tell you this story for pity, Amara continued. I tell you this story so you will think before you whisper, before you judge, before you participate in someone else's humiliation. I tell you this story so the young women in this room know that they deserve better, that they should demand medical tests for both partners before accepting blame, that their worth is not determined by their reproductive organs. She looked directly at the teenage girls sitting in the front row. And I tell you this story so you know that walking away from abuse is not failure. It's strength. It's self-respect. It's choosing to live rather than merely survive. Amara walked down from the podium and stopped in front of Mama Nkechi. The older woman looked up at her, tears streaming down her weathered face. I'm sorry, Mama Nkechi whispered. I'm so sorry. Amara looked at her former mother-in-law for a long moment. Then she did something that surprised everyone, including herself. She knelt down and placed Chiamaka in Mama Nkechi's arms. This is your granddaughter, Amara said quietly. I won't deny you that, but if you want to be part of her life, you need to promise me something. Anything, Mama Nkechi sobbed, holding the baby with trembling hands. Promise me you'll never make another woman feel the way you made me feel. Promise me you'll speak up when you see it happening to others. Promise me you'll use your voice to protect instead of destroy. I promise, Mama Nkechi said through her tears. I swear on this child's life, I promise. Amara nodded and took her daughter back. The meeting lasted 3 hours. Women shared their own stories, stories of blame, of secret suffering, of marriages built on lies. They made commitments to change, to support each other, to stop participating in the cycle of shame. It wasn't perfect, it wouldn't fix everything, but it was a start. As Amara prepared to leave, a young woman approached her. She couldn't have been more than 23, with fear in her eyes and determination in her voice. My husband has been blaming me for 2 years, she said quietly. But after hearing your story, I'm going to demand we both get tested, and if he refuses, she took a deep breath, I'll walk away, like you did. Amara squeezed her hand. You're braver than you know. No, the young woman said. You're the brave one, I'm just following your path. Then make your own path even better, Amara said. Don't wait 2 years, don't wait 5. Demand truth and respect from day one. On the drive back to Lagos, Chiamaka slept peacefully in her car seat while Amara watched the landscape pass by. Nkechi glanced at her cousin. How do you feel? Free, Amara said simply. Completely free. And Kola, did you see him today? No, he stayed away as I asked him to, but he sent a letter. She pulled out an envelope from her bag. Inside was a single page, written in Cola's handwriting. Amara, I heard you spoke to the women today. I heard you were brave, honest, and gracious, all the things I never was. I don't ask for forgiveness. I don't ask for another chance. I just want you to know that I'm getting help. Therapy, counseling. I'm trying to understand why I chose cruelty over love. I'm working to become the kind of man who could be a good father to Chiamaka someday, if you ever decide I've earned that right. Thank you for giving my mother a chance to hold her granddaughter. You didn't have to do that. Your mercy is greater than my cruelty ever was. I will spend the rest of my life regretting what I destroyed, but I will also spend it grateful that you and our daughter are thriving without me. You deserved so much better than what I gave you. I hope you find it. Kola. Amara folded the letter and put it back in her bag. Will you let him see her? Enkechi asked. Maybe, Amara said. Someday, when he's actually changed, not just sorry, when he's become someone who adds value to her life instead of taking from it. And you, will you ever love again? Amara smiled, looking back at her sleeping daughter. I already do. I love myself. I love my daughter. I love the life I'm building. And maybe someday I'll love a man who deserves it, but I'm in no rush. She touched her chest, where her heart beat steady and strong. For the first time in my life, I'm complete, not because of a child, not because of a man, but because I finally understand my own worth. Chiamaka took her first steps in the living room of Amara's new home in Lagos. Amara had started a business, a counseling center for women dealing with infertility and marital issues. She had gone back to school, earned a certificate in counseling, and now spent her days helping other women find their strength. The center was always full. Kola sent money every month for Chiamaka. He sent letters asking about her milestones, her favorite foods, her first words. He never asked to visit. He was keeping his promise to earn the right, not demand it. Mama Enkechi visited once every few months, always humble, always careful, always mindful of boundaries. She had become an advocate in Ugwuoba, speaking out against the very traditions she had once enforced. And Amara was happy. Not because her life was perfect, not because she had everything she wanted, but because she had something more valuable. She had herself. One evening, as she tucked Chiamaka into bed, her daughter looked up at her with wide, curious eyes. Mama, tell me a story. Amara smiled. What kind of story? A brave one. Amara thought for a moment, then began. Once upon a time, there was a woman who everyone called Barren. They said she was cursed. They said she was broken. They said she was incomplete. But do you know what she really was? What, Mama? She was a tree that refused to die. And when the storm finally passed, she grew stronger, taller, and more beautiful than anyone had imagined possible. And the fruit she eventually bore, a single, perfect daughter, was worth more than an entire forest of lies. Chiamaka smiled sleepily. I like that story. So do I, my love, Amara whispered, kissing her daughter's forehead. So do I. They called her Barren, but it was the truth they couldn't give birth to. Infertility is not a woman's curse. Silence is, pride is, lies are. And the strongest trees are the ones that survive the longest storms. If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear that their worth is not defined by other people's limitations. Hit that subscribe button and join a community that believes in truth, justice, and the power of speaking up. Drop a comment and tell me, what did you learn from Amara's story? Have you ever had to choose between staying silent and speaking your truth? Let's talk about it. And remember, you are not barren, you are not broken, you are not incomplete. You are exactly who you're supposed to be. See you in the next story. Stay strong, stay true, and never let anyone make you carry shame that isn't yours. God bless you.